where do you come in this? I really look at our collaboration as the origin of my valuing the connections I have with another educator. And so my little movie is kind of the four W's and the H of being a connected educator. But for us, it's kind of like the origin story. Why did you choose to connect with me? What did we do that made it worthwhile? Why was it, like you were a more senior teacher, I was just there for a year. People don't connect always. So I'm just wondering why.
We collaborated because we believed in the students. We were completely student-centered in everything that we did. In addition to that, I do believe that there's a sixth sense about things, and we both had a level of trust that was kind of unparalleled. We trusted one another, and we trusted that any time that we spent with one another was going to be for an outcome that was a little more than personal, but more about the kids.
I like that, both parts of it, that it was student-centered and a part about trust, because I think it's hard to explain to people why you take the risk, why you go outside of your silo. However, I feel like I grew so much as an educator just by our collaboration and communication and trust.
Okay, so yes, and I felt that I grew a lot as an educator with the amount of collaborations that we did and the amount of trust that we had. How or why do educators take these risks? I'm guessing it has a lot to do with motivation and where that educator is in their personal life, in their work life. I know that at that time, I was on fire for collaborations. I knew that collaborations was the answer to making sure that the lessons were what they were supposed to be.
Tricia, what have you done since then in terms of collaboration? What has the journey been like? Where else have you gone after our collaboration 5-6 years ago?
Well, I had a hard time filling your spot. I had a hard time finding someone to fill your spot. But I did have a second run with a similar type of collaborations. Obviously, I'm constantly collaborating with my language arts department, but in the way that you and I collaborated, definitely I saw that when Jason Chong and I started the STEM program at Parks. And when we sat down to talk about, when Jason and I sat down to talk about what our goals were, what our mission was, what we wanted in education, it was a fit. And so we did start the STEM program at Parks, and it was a great year to work with him. And it was very similar to what you and I did, Judy.
That's so great. I'm glad. And I was good to see a lot of Parks alumni, or me being an alumni, I guess, at the Fall Q. I'm wondering, this is another theme I'm sort of developing in my ideas, is that sometimes we can find people within our school sites or school districts, but really to grow beyond our own culture, we need to reach to other districts, other leaders, other worlds. How have you accomplished that, if you agree with that?
I do agree with that. And I think that that is an epitome for any teacher to be able to join. For example, Jason and I joined the Instructional Leadership Corps through CTA Stanford and the National Board Resource Center. And that has made an incredible impact on my life as a teacher. And just like you said, the collaborations that was going to happen outside of my site and even my district, the collaborations that I've done with that group, the Instructional Leadership Corps, has taken it to the next level. We're collaborating with state individuals, and just like you said, I'm doing staff developments outside of the district, going into Riverside next month to do a staff development. So yes, you're on to something with that.
Why are you so generous? It just blows my mind, and it's a great model, but why?
This is really, really easy, and I'll tell the story as quickly as I can. About 15 years ago, well, I originally got into teaching to not be a teacher. I don't like the idea of being a content delivery specialist. I want to work with human children to make their lives better. That's my goal. Okay. So about 15 or 16 years ago, I realized that every year I would get this little group of chickens, like my wife calls them, and I would spruce them up as good as I can and shoo them off to the next grade level. And when I really observed what was happening to the kids that I knew were hardworking, good kids in my class, they were getting so beaten down by the system,
Right.
that I realized I had to change the system. And so I tried some things, and I tried rearranging our school. One of the things that it was very primordial, I don't want to make it sound like it was all detailed and organized, but we started a deal where at the end of the year, the 6th graders would go to 7th grade for 3 mornings and get to know their teachers and really start building a relationship, a working relationship, so that they didn't spend all summer being afraid of their teacher.
Right.
If you've had kids, you know what that's like, right? They're afraid of their teachers. And it's not the teacher's fault, it's a situation. So we were just getting rolling on having every class do that. And we were already seeing some huge gains with kids as far as buy-in and not waiting the first 3 or 4 weeks to really get to know the teachers. And they were jumping right into class. It was really cool. Then I went to work for CTAP, the California Technology Assistance Project, and that was housed at Fresno County office. And I had this huge epiphany that it wasn't just my school, and it wasn't just my district. It was the whole region. Then we started going to more events, and then, oh my gosh, it's not the region, it's the whole state. And then I start going to more events, and I'm like, oh my gosh, it is the whole United States. And the last one I'm telling people is it's worldwide. It's a worldwide phenomenon. The kids in England are not begging for more homework. And the kids in China that are begging for more homework are only doing it because they're poor, and they're not doing the right kind of homework anyways. So that's kind of my nutshell version of why do I help so much? Because the hole that we need to fill is big.
Right. So what do you do to fill the hole? I mean, how many shovels can you use?
Well, that's where like the Rockstar camps come into play. The Q Rockstar stuff. You know, my thesis there, or hypothesis, if you would, was that if I could get all of the crazy teachers to connect, much like you and I have, that we would have a tremendous network. If we had that one person, because every school I've ever been at, there's one kind of out of the box nutty teacher. But when they sit in the lunchroom, sometimes the other teachers aren't ready to accept the reality they present. I don't know if you're old enough to remember the movie Little Big Man, but remember that one Native American warrior who does everything backwards, just as a form of mental discipline. There's a teacher like that at almost every school I've ever been at. And so the hypothesis on Q Rockstar was, what if I could get together 100 people like that and share for 3 days? What would that be like? And then it's just grown and grown and grown. So it's been really, that's been kind of my mission, is giving away better ideas and better ways of teaching that'll combat the current mindset.
And I love how you said you thought, like we have this 5-year window right now. I don't know why it's 5 years, but like this special time that we could, take the lid off the can and make it a change. Why do you think that?
We're at this do you remember Deep Thoughts with Jack Handy on Saturday Night Live?
No.
Okay, so he was the guy that would write little funny sayings. He would say things that didn't make sense. And so one of the ones I always remember him saying was, I bet at the end of the age of Vikings, they all patted each other on the back and said, hey man, good job. So he has these cute little sayings like that. And I think that what I love about that one is people don't realize when those massive changes are underway. And I think we're at one of those convergences right now. And here's an example. We have Common Core coming in, right?
Yes.
Common Core is changing the way the assessment piece looks. We have devices coming in. Now, devices without internet is a different conversation. So we have devices and internet coming in. And so those devices and the proliferation of devices is changing what kids can do at home, which is also changing the way their brain works at
School.
So we're at this massive place where we have no rudder. People are just running around doing stuff crazy like me, or they're trying to do the old stuff better. And there's this big divide. New stuff, not sure what I'm doing, but I'm trying stuff. Over here, you will write an essay. It will be 1.5 spaces because that's what we did on paper because I needed room to edit. Forget the fact that you're in Google Docs and I can comment. Do not pay attention to that. So we've got those two groups, and it's really funny because I see the group over here that wants to be old school is not doing that great of a job of being old school digitally. I can do that. I can do good old school digitally. They're not doing that great a job. And
Connected educators, why do we grow so much? What makes it possible?
That's just easy. It's just reps, right? And this is actually a good capstone for everything I've said. Okay, so I want you to visualize you're a teacher. You go to the same classroom. You only basically talk to the same people who are under the age of 18 all day long, all year. Where's your outside interaction? Oh, you see somebody when you're going past the copy machine. Hey, you going to the Christmas party thing? That's your only adult action, except for once a week during a magical time we call staff parties, right? Staff meetings. And oh, yes. And what do you get to do during staff meetings most of the time? Listen quietly. And if there is a discussion, it usually leaves the group more fractured than when it started.
Yeah.
And so I just want you to multiply that times 15 years and tell me how you're getting to be a better teacher in that scenario.
Just get more into your own thing. It seems like the silo.
Yeah, and you just kind of go Robinson Crusoe on yourself, right? You're stuck on this island with a limited amount of input, a limited amount of feedback from peers, right? Oh, I love spending the time with the kids. That's great. And we can go on crazy field trips and do cool projects and bring in outside speakers. But in the end, I'm the captain of the ship by myself. Imagine if the United States Navy had one aircraft carrier and you were the captain. That is a lonely ass job, right?
Yeah.
But if you're one of 20 or 30 captains of aircraft carriers and you chat once a week for an hour about aircraft carrier problems, and you can email aircraft carrier help, and there's an aircraft carrier webpage, now you're part of a community. So why can't we just, that makes so much sense for aircraft carriers. Why doesn't it make sense to teachers?
I really find this logic compelling, which is why I'm on the boat. And I don't want it to be that Titanic where we run into stuff and crash. Right. And I don't want it to be a tanker full of gas that can't turn because the world is turning. And if we don't turn it a little faster, we're going to end up going off the edge, So I like the journey. Now I just have to make it work. And this learning about connected educators and finding a way to be more connected is kind of the answer that I'm coming up with, at least. So I thank your involvement in this and your words of wisdom. And I appreciate your time, John.
Well, and I would just leave you with this one thought. Most of the stuff you're hearing from me comes from outside of education. So yeah. One last thought for yourself and whoever's watching or listening. You have to read management and leadership books outside of education and then translate that into education. And I'll leave you with this.